ایران، من شهریار افشار هستم، میزبان شما در پالیتیکس 365. امروز یکی از اکتیویست‌های خیلی فعال جامعه را به برنامه دعوت کردیم که در شبکه تیک تاک خیلی فعاله. اسم حقیقیش استفاده نمی کنیم، اما اگه برین شبکه تیک تاک و برای اسم Persian Sultan بگردین ایشونو پیدا میکنین. واقعا یکی از دلایلی که من میخواستم یکی از افرادهای فعال جامعه رو بیارم تو این برنامه اینه که این جنبش ملی چندین نوع فرم داره و در چندین شبکه‌های مختلف مبارزین صبح تا شب دارن برنامه تهیه میکنن، ویدیو تهیه میکنن، آدیو تهیه میکنن و تمام به اصطلاح تا اونجایی که میتونن تمام حوادثی که در ایران داره میفته، در خارج ایران که برای دیاسپورا، برای ایرانی مقیم خارج و برای ایرانی مقیم ایران مهمه، این دوستان عزیزان تهیه میکنن، وقت خودشونو میذارن، داوطلب میکنن برای وقتایی که دارن یه برنامه خیلی جالبی درست میکنن و واقعا آدم با این چند ثانیه‌ای که با این دوستان روی تیک تاک یا فیسبوک، اینستاگرام وقت میذارین خیلی یاد میگیرین. فقط به اصطلاح هنر نیست، واقعا یه نوع ادویکیشن در مورد خیلی موضوعی پیچیده‌ای که وقتی به ایران نگاه میکنین و تمام اخبار و خبرهایی که از ایران میاد، به جای اینکه اون چند ثانیه رو CNN یا یه وبسایتی به طور مختصر ببینین جریان چیه، اگه این دوستان ما مثل پرژن سلطان رو در تیک تاک فالو کنین، میتونین یه ذره بیشتر آگاه بشین، یه ذره بیشتر بفهمین که جریان چیه، پشت پرده چیه. و یکی از واقعا هم پرژن سلطان یک کارشناس تمام موضوع فایننس و مالیه، پس فقط یه به اصطلاح یه اکتیویست فعال نیست رو شبکه، یه کارشناسی که واقعا به قول معروف he knows what he's talking about. پس منم تمام این مدت‌ها، تمام این سال پیش سعادت داشتم که با ایشون آشنا بشم و فالو کنم روی تیک تاک و واقعا یاد بگیرم که این اخبارایی که ما شاید ببینیم از ایران میاد بیرون، ایشون یه ذره بیشتر به اصطلاح جستجو میکنه و واقعا میتونه موضوع خیلی به طور خیلی واضح به ما توضیح بده. خلاصه میخواستم دعوت کنم و گفتم اسم حقیقی ایشون رو استفاده نمی کنیم، اما دعوت کنم ایشون رو به برنامه یه ذره خودشون بگن که چطور شد که تو این شبکه فعال شدن، هدفشون چیه، و بعد میریم دنبال چند تا از موضوعایی که پرژن سلطان بررسی کرده، مثلا از نظر بانکی، این پولایی که از آمریکا داره به ایران میره. به اصطلاح میدونید تو سیاست آمریکا همیشه میگن follow the money و ایشون هم واقعا یک کسیه که is following the money و متاسفانه تو هر دولتی نگاه کنین پول و اثری که دولت‌ها رو پول دارن و سیاست زیاد از هم دور نیست. پس واقعا این موضوع سیاسیه، اما خب اثرش مالیه. بگذاریم از این موضوع. آقای پرژن سلطان خوش اومدین به برنامه. به دوستان بگم که این بخش از برنامه به انگلیسی تهیه شده، اما هر سوال چیز فارسی هم داشتیم میتونیم لابلاش به فارسی هم دیگه اشاره کنیم، اما این چند دقیقه که با هم وقت داریم به انگلیسی پیش می‌بریم. خوش آمدین پرژن سلطان.
مرسی، دستون درد نکنه. فارسی من اونطوری خوب نیست، so moving forward یه ذره انگلیسی صحبت کنیم is more natural. ولی دست درد نکنه، مرسی دعوت کردی. انشالله یه conversation خوب با هم دیگه داشته باشیم که gives more knowledge and information out to the people.
مرسی. So tell me about, especially a lot of people are focused on the $6 billion. Somebody told us $9 billion, but it's $6 billion going to Iran. Explain a little bit about the money. I've seen you do some reports on articles that was discussed on social media. You did some analysis that I thought that was excellent analysis as to the source of the money, the characters, the personalities behind it, the bureaucracy behind it. It's just very convoluted issue. And I think the more we can explain this money, where it came from, where it's going, I think the more public service we can provide.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So as you mentioned so eloquently in your opening, I have a background in finance. I've worked for very large multinational conglomerates. I have a degree in finance, so I understand the nuance and the detail of the structure of a money deal and basically how it flows. So the $6 billion is very fascinating to me because I started realizing certain things, knowing how the Iranian economy works and understanding that somebody from the United States might look at it and say, well, it's just strictly humanitarian, because that's how the deal was structured. The deal was structured to say it's only going to humanitarian aid. There's going to be a third party neutral person that was going to say, all right, money goes to there and I can control it. But it's not that simple. The Iranian economy is basically a planned economy. It's a reactive economy. So it's like the mullahs have control over everything. It's like an octopus. And having that money going to Qatar is, one, a big red flag. And two, the world economy the dollar is the world economy, right? It's what is used currency wise. The Treasury controls that. So the Treasury in the United States controls where the dollar goes, can verify it, can trace it. As soon as they take it out of South Korea, because that's where it's stored. So let me take a step back. So South Korea froze about $6 billion of Iranian oil revenue, $6 billion US dollars. And United States issued sanctions to close any kind of revenue. Now, it's been sitting there for a while. They went through a lot of legal up and down. Anyways, through a deal supposedly that was done when they released American prisoners, the Biden administration released $6 billion to Iran. Now, Iran said, all right, well, let's convert it into euros. Now, the reason why they convert it into euros is because the Fed cannot control, the Treasury, excuse me, cannot control euros. It can control American dollar. So that's one red flag,
Wow.
right? And then the second red flag is going to Qatar. So Qatar is supposedly a third party neutral that would control everything. That's absolutely incorrect. A simple analysis will say there are two main figures in the banking sector in Iran and Qatar. The Qatar person, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, but it's a very easy Google search. The guy in Iran is like Mohammed Farzad, is the guy that's the head of the banking sector in the IC's administration. These two meet every month and they control bilateral agreements economically between Qatar and Iran. And then there's a Iranian bank in Qatar. So an Iranian actually owned bank in Qatar. So these are all flags that obviously none of this is going to humanitarian aid. The Iranian economy is in shambles, right? 100 plus inflation, oil is being sold dirt cheap, gas is nowhere in existence, commodities are nothing. The Iranian economy is crap, but the mullahs are still making money. So obviously it's not going down to the Iranian person. So I wanted to draw attention to that and realize, to the average Iranian that doesn't follow it like I do, or the average American, this is a big red flag. And this is a presetter to other large deals that probably the Biden administration is going to push, predominantly the nuclear deal.
So obviously Qatar or Iran, a lot of these smaller Middle Eastern countries are very scared of Iran.
Yes.
Right? I mean, they feel like they're under Iran's thumb, so they are acting as proxies for a lot of these issues. So as you explained, banking system in Qatar and Iran, you can't even tell it apart. One question I guess I had was, is $6 billion going to make a difference in the Iranian economy, or the control? I mean, if you're a crooked government, 6 billion or 6 million, I mean, like, what? How will that impact them, their budgetary?
So that's a really good question, because the budget that IC pushed in the new year, so Persian New Year, Nuruz, is the official fiscal year for Iran, right? So March 21st, it starts the fiscal year. IC put in a ridiculous budget of 51 billion, equivalent to 51 billion American dollars. Now, let me give you a little bit of insight into that. There is a way to measure economic output by saying what is a liquid currency in the market. So basically, how much cash is available in the market. There is 51 billion, way more than the actual Iranian rial that people switch back and forth. And then the way he wanted to close that BS budget is, he says we're going to sell a lot more oil than we can sell, and then we're just going to print money over and over again. So now if you have excess amount of money, it creates inflation pressure, because now people have a lot more money to spend. And then selling oil is ridiculous because they don't sell oil because they're on heavy sanctions. And if they do, they're selling it to China at like 40% market value. So that amount of deficit that you create with your budget, $6 billion, it's not going to do nothing to it. People are not going to, it's not going to trickle down to the average Iranian that's struggling and can't buy meat, can't buy potatoes. It's not going to trickle down to them, because what's going to happen is by the time it gets into Iran, let's assume there's going to be humanitarian aid, right? I use this example in one of my videos. Say you buy a bunch of needles and you want to give it to a hospital, right? So it goes through a process where it comes in, some company buys it. That company is owned by some mullah. Then he's going to take a chunk of that. Then it's going to trickle down to some transportation. They're going to take a chunk of that. Then it's going to move over to the hospital, and they're going to say, well, I bought it. You have to pay me for it now. Now I'm going to raise it ridiculously high. So at the end, nothing goes to them. So it makes no difference whatsoever. All it does is fatten the mullah's pockets, and then just and gets them to fund terror, gets them to push out BS issues to other countries. It makes no difference to the average Iranian.
So this $6 billion contribution, perhaps, as you're saying, the first of more to come.
Yeah.
So people should be prepared for this kind of, if we did it once, nobody really objected, the world kept spinning, let's just keep doing it. And basically, from a US political perspective, let's buy our way out of this issue with Iran. Let's just keep showering them with billions of dollars and buy our way. Because we don't want to it seems like to me, they don't want a conflict with Iran. They don't want an issue with Iran. And throwing money at the problem and buying a few hostages seems like the way. This seems like from a public standpoint, that seems like what their public stance is, right? And the other side of what you're saying is, of course, and I think you confirm what everyone's worst fear is, that the $6 billion certainly doesn't get to the average Iranian. It only seems like it's covering financial mismanagement. So it's like a credit card, like you overspend for your household budget by several $billion of mismanagement, dropped in oil prices, God knows what, spending millions of dollars, billions of dollars off your border to build masjids and forget the military, just so much there. I think I heard that they built a water filtration plant in Karbala. Meanwhile, Iran is like, Iran ab kame, there's not the problem. They're building water filtration plants in another country. So that kind of covers up, buys them a little bit of time, right? When you got money in the bank, it seems like politically you got a little bit more to trade with. So this certainly helps the regime take a breath for however long $6 billion gets you, and then demonstrate to the foreign powers that, hey, keep it coming, right? Keep going. That's frustrating to watch, because the past year with Mahsa Amini's Salyat coming up next month in September, I think the diaspora and a lot of Iranians, the 8-10 million of us outside of Iran, really wanted to see the fruits of our labor, the fruits of the conversations and the protests. And so many Iranians from Australia to New Zealand to Canada to Europe have gone to their legislators and protested all of these things. But apart from lip service and some nice speeches, and maybe Jill Biden giving the Academy Award to the Grammy, I haven't seen any policy changes. Have you noticed it? I mean, let's look at it from a financial perspective. Have you seen any political reorientation anywhere in the past year?
Nothing extreme, nothing that would affect. The only thing that would have been not so much policy, but these sanctions are going towards them, which are mixed blessing in itself. But with respect to any kind of major policy, the only one that I'm aware of in Europe was trying to register the IRGC as a terrorist organization, which would have hit them financially, which that didn't happen, which was a weird situation in itself, because a little bit of analysis would have determined that it was possible. There was the head, I don't remember his name right now, but the head of the kind of legal division in the European Union said it's not possible because of legal issues, but it is. That's a different discussion. And then the MASA Act in Congress, that's right now, that's in Senate, that would make an effect as well, because it would register them as a terrorist organization. It would sanction the actual entities that are affecting the transfer, not necessarily this random person in the army or that random person. You got to attack the entities itself, the banking sectors, the transfer back and forth, the transfers, all those things make a big difference. And that's what the MATA Act would do if it does pass.
If it does. Right now, it seems like it's on hold in the Senate. It hasn't really moved out of there. And the MATA Act, for everyone's benefit, is really trying to sanction the offices of the regime rather than the individuals, which really, from a sanction standpoint, takes a little bit of power away from the U.S. president, because the U.S. president gets to selectively choose who to sanction when he wants to. But when it's the law, when it's legislation, and if it gets passed and the president signs it, then it's the law. Like then it's not no discretionary decision making involved. Right. Whether I want to sanction you or right, it's like the law. Right. So I hope it moves forward, but I just don't have a lot of confidence that Biden will sign it, because I haven't seen any strong statements from him to demonstrate that he's willing to stand with the Iranian people. In the couple of minutes we have left, how do you see what do you see coming in the next few months? I mean, what do you see from a priority standpoint, either from the diaspora, news from Iran, especially financial issues? What should the community be watching?
I think there's a multiple of facets that I think people should pay attention to. One, it should continue talking about it, right? Because the news outlets talk about it on a split second, a segment. The average American, the average Iranian should continue talking about it. I have no, say in Iran or what happens, but the fact is that I respect everybody and their opinion, but I still want to get information out. Keep talking about it, no matter what. As long as it was great at one moment, and then it got a lot of attention, and then it died out, and then the only people that are talking about it are people like you and I, which we want to draw attention to it. Also, just don't take news as a defeat. So if something is said that, there's been $6 billion that got released, a lot of people are like, all right, it's done. Now the regime is not going anywhere. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon, as they say. So continue, be positive in that approach, listen to people, get information out there, and try to get people outside of the diaspora to actually pay attention as well. I get asked a lot, what can I do as an average American? Well, continue talking about it. All this stuff that people think are useless, hashtags save lives, they actually have. Send information out to your congressman, your senator, draw attention, continue talking about it, and get information out. I think if we continue down that path, it will shift the way that we think about it. And the 1 year anniversary of Mahsa's death is going to have another big upward. There's going to be a lot of mass demonstration in Iran, and all that information is coming out, and the news is not talking about it. So it's up to us to make sure that people hear it. So that's what I'm hopeful for, and that's what I'm thinking, that it will continue down that path if we keep bringing attention to it.
Right. Excellent advice. It's activism 101. Don't get discouraged. ناامید نشین. ادامه بدین همه حرفایی که میزنین، و مخصوصا اگه تا اونجایی که بتونیم خارجی ها رو آمریکایی ها، خارجی ها و انگلیسی زبان ها رو به اصطلاح ادوکییت بکنیم تا اونجایی که میتونیم. ما خودمون با فارسی حرف میزنیم و تو دنیای خودمونیم با فارسی، خب خودمون میدونیم چه خبره، اما تا اونجایی که میتونیم به اصطلاح میگیم اون the silent majority, the great vast, not only Iranians that haven't gotten involved, but really Americans and English speakers that benefit, I think, from your program or watching your analysis on TikTok. Persian Sultan, یک دنیا تشکر، یک دنیا سپاسگزارم از وقتت، زحمتت، از همتت. واقعا کاری که داری میکنی برای جامعه ایران خیلی مهمه. Is objective education. I know you don't have like a slant. Of course, we all support the Iranian people, but I love it when I see objective, good analysis, because then people can make their own judgments, right? And finance, doesn't lie. You can't, right? What is it? We say you're entitled to your own opinion, not your own facts.
Right.
And financial facts are just indisputable. And when you kind of shed light into it, especially international finance, which is just a very complicated thing, as you just described, I think the community and the larger peace-loving world benefits. So یک دونه تشکر Persian Sultan. Please come back. We love what you're doing. And if you want to follow Persian Sultan, go to TikTok, look for Persian Sultan, and you'll see this good-looking young man talking about Iran all day long. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your help and everything that you do. That's what I want to
Merci.